Hi, and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and today's author conversation is very special to me because A, it's one I've been trying to get for a while, but things have gotten in the way every time it's almost happened. So it's very fun to mark one off of my vision board for the year for my authors that I'd like to have on the show. But also, I've done a panel with this author before, and she's absolutely hilarious. And to get to talk to her before she recorded a live podcast herself, even more special. And that author is Sarah MacLean. Her new book is called These Summer Storms, and this is her contemporary debut. She's been an icon of historical romance for so long, and now she's finally testing out the contemporary waters in a really fun way. I'm calling this book We Were Liars for Adults, so if you like that kind of vibe, you're gonna want to check this out. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Sarah MacLean. Welcome to Literary Hype.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So back in the day, it's been probably 2 years, we did a panel at New York Comic Con together on Battle of the Tropes.
The Tessa Bailey panel.
Yes.
Where Tessa just creamed me.
But you also did really well. I
you.
still talk about the first one you did with hate effing and then mic drop.
Oh.
For Enemies to Lovers.
Yeah, that's why Enemies to Lovers works so well.
Exactly. So with the thought of Battle of the Tropes in mind, is there a trope that you have not written yet that you want to, and one that you will never write?
I will never write Friends to Lovers. So that's an easy one. We can get that out of the way. I would really like to write Amnesia because I think it is really fun. And it gives you a chance to dial the whole story up to 11.
It's a very controversial trope.
It is. And I'm getting there. Not 20 books in. I have to keep people interested. And controversy seems to work too.
Which is really funny that you pick Amnesia, because this book, your new release, These Summer Storms, has We Were Liars vibes, just without the amnesia.
Yes, but also all my books have We Were Liars vibes. So
this one especially, with the private island and and the rich family fighting.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect time for this book to come out now that everybody's talking about We Were Liars.
Yeah.
So for anybody who hasn't already seen this book out and about, what's it about?
It's about a dysfunctional family who the patriarch of which is a billionaire who dies in a freak kind of real billionaire accident kind of way. And his children are sent home come home to the family's private compound on a private island in New England. And the protagonist of the book, Alice, is our guide. She is the estranged daughter of this family. And she doesn't want to go home. She's been estranged she hasn't spoken to her family in 5 years. We don't know why. And we meet her on the train, and she really doesn't want to go home. So instead of going home, she goes to a motel with a very handsome man who's also on the train for one night before the chaos. And then gets to her island compound, discovers that her billionaire father has left an inheritance game for the children to see who will win the billions. And oops, the one night stand was with the guy who is managing the game.
Shout out to the forearms of this guy. Because 2 or 3 books in a row that I've read have mentioned the forearms. What is it about forearms that's so swoony?
I feel like forearms are a good measure of a man's ability to get shit done. To fix a thing, lift a thing, hold a thing. They're a measure of strength, and we want our heroes to be strong.
Love it so much. But on the flip side of that is the games.
Yes.
And the tasks that these siblings all have to perform in order to get their share of the inheritance are hilarious. So talk a little bit about how you came up with the ideas of what each sibling would have to do. And were you cackling the whole time?
I mean, for Sam, yes, I was cackling the whole time. So there are 4 siblings. Greta is the oldest, and she is perfect in every way. But she has had a long time, years and years long affair with her father's chauffeur and bodyman, his bodyguard, Sam, who is the boy king, the only boy, and expects to inherit everything, and is a blowhard and arrogant and kind of very obnoxious and kind of terrible. Married to a kind of terrible woman with children who, if we're not careful, will become kind of terrible themselves. And then there's Alice, who we know, who's been estranged for 5 years and is back for the first time. And then Emily, who is the baby of the family, and she's just a baby. She's just delightful and sweet, and has a crystal shop on the island or on the mainland. And so it was very easy for me to think through the tasks of some of them I knew. For example, like Sam is such a blowhard. Him not being able to speak would be a lot of fun. I knew Alice's task would be that she had to stay. And I knew that Greta's task would be something to do with her relationship with Tony, her father's body man. But Emily was actually a real challenge for me because Emily plays a very important role in this book. It's not, the book is not only a romance. It is really the story of a big family, and it's the story of love in many different forms, and whether or not we can find love for some people. And Emily plays a really big role. And so for a long time, I didn't know what her task would be. And then it became really clear to me ultimately.
With Sam and his not being able to talk and his workaround of text to speak.
Yeah.
And he has the classic duck you.
Well, first of all, who among us has not accidentally texted duck you?
It's so funny.
Or ducking, or
the duck? What's your favorite autocorrect failure that you've done?
I mean, that is a real classic for me. The other fun part about that is their father is a billionaire, and he's a billionaire because basically he invented a microprocessor that made it possible for him to invent the iPhone, essentially. It's not the iPhone, it's called the Storm. And so the fact that autocorrect doesn't work for the Storms is pretty great.
It is so great. The little details throughout this just made me so giddy.
Thank you.
I love it so much.
Thank you.
But what was the initial spark? Like, you've been iconic in the historical romance space for so long, and then to flip it up and do a contemporary, like, what was it about this story that was like, I need to write this now?
So it was the pandemic, and I was in Rhode Island for the summer. A friend of mine had a really lovely little cottage on the beach, and she offered it to my family, and so we were there for the summer. And some people got really into sourdough bread during the pandemic, and I got really into these little islands. And I'm from Rhode Island, so I spent a lot of time that summer looking at these islands and thinking, like, who would live on these islands? What would it be like to be podding, essentially? I mean, we were all so isolated that summer, and I ended up writing a book that was really about a family isolating and having to reckon with the questions that they have, the vacuum that a father leaves and that a parent leaves when they die, the way that we restructure the power in our family when things like that happen. And then, of course, like, watching terrible rich people be terrible to each other is really fun. And so for me, it was that summer, that pandemic summer. I think we were all isolated. We were all thinking about grief. And this book came really clearly to me. And then it just took several years to write because I write historicals too.
Okay, so you just mentioned the family structures and like the complex relationships. So what kind of research did you put into like the sibling hierarchy and how they would interact with each other?
I think if you have a sibling, I come from a family of 3. I know what it's like to be a sibling. I think the one thing about this book is if you have a sibling, or if you know people who have siblings, or if you've ever been around siblings, which everybody has, you will recognize the Storms, even though they are extraordinarily wealthy and they live a very different kind of life than we do. So I would say, rich, I did a lot of research into wealth. I did a lot of research into these billionaire fathers. I read Small Fry, which is the biography of Steve Jobs' daughter. I watched the Richard Branson documentary. His kids are part of that. I read a bunch of stuff about Bill Gates and others. I read the biography of Steve Jobs, and these men have a real difficulty relinquishing control because they changed the world, right? They built the world. They are robber barons. And so what does it mean to be the child of somebody who, I think at one point Alice thinks to herself, like, the first line of my obituary is my father. I'll never be anything more than my last name. And that was really interesting to me. And I think what's interesting about siblings in that scenario is you might hate each other, but you are the only people who know what it is. And this is true of everybody, your siblings are the only people who were forged in your fire.
As an oldest of 4 with 3 girls and 1 boy, it felt very real.
Oh, I'm so glad.
How we didn't have money, but the nitpicking at each other was so real.
But isn't that part of it too? Like, you don't need money. It's still the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same.
Yeah, it's that great equalizer of your family is still going to torture you no matter how much money you have.
Yeah, the buttons get installed.
But also you have Julio as your narrator. So what was it like finding out that she was going to be narrating your audiobook?
Well, Julia Whalen was my dream narrator. Like, when the book first sold to Random House and they brought me in to do a meeting, they said, what's your dream? And I was like, my dream is to have Julia Whalen narrate it. Like, she was my vision. She was the entirety of my vision board for this book. And then when they finally told me that she was the narrator, I was over the moon. And this is the first of my audiobooks that I've listened to. I've never listened to an audiobook before of mine because it's weird. And she's so perfect. I mean, the audiobook is tremendous if you're an audio reader.
Oh, it's so good. I started reading Eyeballs and then got the audio and I was like, we are switching gears.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so well
terrific.
done.
Yeah. It's terrific.
But this is also a gear switch for you. So did switching from historical to contemporary change your process at all?
It was more challenging for sure to write contemporary because, this is my 20th book. 18 of the 20 have been historical. I wrote a contemporary novella during the pandemic, that same summer actually. But other than that, book-wise, this is my first contemporary. And yeah, it's a different muscle. It's like if you only ever do leg day, then doing arm day is completely new. And for me, contemporary is really challenging because it requires a level of believability, I think, that historical can wave away. Like, I can tell you a story set in history and put some Vaseline on the lens and wave away some of the historical truth. And you'll come on the journey with me because you accept bigger emotions, bigger feelings from historical than you do from contemporary, right? Bigger stories, bigger plots, bigger challenges, like more conflict. But contemporary requires threading that needle so that you believe these people could live alongside you, that you could be riding the train next door to Alice. And so that was a real challenge for me.
What have you learned about writing and adjusting your process through your podcast talking about writing?
Oh my gosh. I learn from the podcast every week. I'm very lucky, first of all, that Jen is with me every week. She's so smart. She's such a brilliant reader. She's so astute about text. The first season of the podcast was a complete read along of Cressley Cole's Immortals After Dark series, which is being rejacketed and re-released right now, and is just like the mother of romantasy. And I'm so happy people are finding it again. And learning from, reading and analyzing some of what I believe are the best books of the genre has really made me trust my instincts more, has made me take better risks, take bigger swings. I think my books are better for the podcast.
You also teach writing classes.
I do.
So what made you want to teach?
I feel like I would have been a teacher, if I weren't a writer. I do teach writing. I teach a writing romance class, a sort of intro class, and then I teach a master class in conflict every year. Because I think it's important. I think there's so many people who are trying to write romance now. So many readers who, have decided that they want to try writing. And I think that's amazing. That's how so many of the biggest right? That's how I started, right? I was a reader, and then I started writing. But when I started, there were classes, and there were, you could take a class with somebody who'd been writing for a decade. And then that's, again, during the pandemic, that sort of quieted down. The places where we might have taken classes disappeared. And so it just feels important that we continue to talk about craft, because romance is an important piece of literature, and we deserve to treat it with respect, and we deserve to think of it as something that requires study and craft.
And before we go, we got to talk about Duchess's book.
Yeah.
It's still on your website. Is it still happening? What's the timeline?
Yeah, I'm writing it right now. It should be out next year, summer or fall of next year. And it is, I hope, exactly what everybody wants. The bells are back. It's a little bit of a road trip, a little bit forced proximity, a little bit kidnapping. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So
awesome. And the last question we always ask, because this is Literary Hype, what books are you hyped about?
Well, I'm here tonight with Kate Claiborne, which she has a new book coming out next year, and I've already read it, and it's magnificent. I really, really loved Renee Adia's Park Avenue. If you're a These Summer Storms fan, if you read it and you love it, you should read Park Avenue next. It's also a dysfunctional family, wildly wealthy billionaires, but it's set against the K-beauty industry in New York City, and it's like it drips with money. I am really excited about Francesca Saratella's Full Bloom, which is out next month, which is a little bit magical realism. The heroine is gifted on the worst day of her life, is gifted a perfume that makes her irresistible. And she has to reckon with that, which is really fun. That's a very, very fun book.
Well, thanks so much for hanging out with Literary Hype.
It was so fun to be here.
Thanks again to Sarah for hanging out with me while she was in St. Louis to record a live episode of Fated Mates podcast, which was absolutely hilarious, and you should definitely check out her podcast if you have not done so already. But get your hands on this book, These Summer Storms. It is so good. You're going to want to read this. The links to do so are down in the description for you, as well as where to find Sarah on social media. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Literary Hype YouTube channel, and share this with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.